cut off. Hey, how are you?
Pretty horrible right now
Yeah, talk to me.
because I've just had an email from my solicitor, and it just boils down to having to be intimidated and comply over and over again. And
Okay.
it's because bloody Dearman has published my bail conditions and my sick note, and that shouldn't provoke me to respond or do anything online because it's basically a trap.
Yeah.
And of course, I was pretty happy about the fact that these screenshots were found and that Diamond Das Hampstead was offered. And I was all, if you like, in a state. I mean, looking back, I was basically in a state and quite unable to streamline thinking and appropriate actions. And now I just left a message with him because I still think that the only way forward has to be to go to the court and vary the bail conditions, but I suspect that will not be possible to get Dearman as witness.
Okay, so just for those that are not up to speed, Sabine McNeill is an activist on a European level, half German, half Slavic, living in London. How long have you been living in England as your home?
Since 1981 and since 85 in the same flat.
Okay, a long-term resident in London, and so just to update anybody that's not up to speed on this, Sabine has been lobbying Europe specifically on forced adoptions and an active campaigner, including with Mackenzie Friends, for civil rights, especially regarding children. So, and Sabine was active in the early days of the Hampstead case, and felt no choice but to leave the country when it was evident that she was going to be arrested regarding the release of the children's video testimonies online, which there's evidence to prove that it was somebody else. That person very graciously came forward with evidence and saying, I released them, and so that's that. But as a whistleblower, and having been an active participant in the early days of the case, Sabine had to flee the jurisdiction until, for being involved with the exposure of this alleged cover-up of a child abuse ring in Hampstead. So after several months, how long were you in exile?
6 months.
After 6 months in exile, Sabine, at age, do you mind if I say your age?
No.
Are you 70 or 71?
70.
Sabine, at 70, with a disability from a very bad car crash, decided, no, I'm going to come back. I want to live in my own flat. I want to have my own life, and I'll deal with whatever comes up. And was arrested the day after returning to the UK, after the leave to appeal application, which shockingly failed. I'm still getting the shock about that. Sabine was arrested and released on bail for alleged harassment of one of the alleged abusers. Was that the charge against you?
The problem is, Angie, I mustn't talk about this.
I beg your pardon. Okay, so I'm just going to say Sabine was arrested, connected with the case, and bailed at 70 with a disability. Do you have to wear a tag? Are you allowed to talk about any of your bail conditions?
No, you see this. Well, actually, you see, the bail conditions have been published, so everybody can look at them.
So for the video testimonies, and they still tried to get you for that. So I don't want to walk you into compromising your situation because you're clearly upset already. So basically, I think it's okay to say you were arrested and bailed, and it seems that you were provoked and you took the bait, and you seem to have breached your bail conditions. Am I understanding right?
That's a good way of putting it, actually. I'm just sending you the link of the publication of my bail documents and the sick note that God only knows how they got into the hands of the publisher of this blog, who we more or less we actually know is the father of the children, and. He must have, in order to find out how he got them, I now have to complain to the police because it's pretty obvious that the police leaked them.
Yeah, I was advised also to report my own computers being compromised, hacked, and although I have nothing to hide, I'm also a mother, and you know, it's not nice to have your personal email. It's illegal besides anything else, but it's also, it's immoral. It's immoral. You know, I have my children's school records and medical, my son has a disability, all his medical issues. So I also was advised to go to the police, not just on those grounds. I was advised to report the hacking of my personal emails, and also to report harassment on a HAMPSTEAD blog where my father's photograph has been lifted, and really inappropriate, very low blows. I didn't rise to the bait. It was the same thing trying to bait me, but within a few days of my sister's untimely death, there was abusive baiting comments. So I too am advised to consider going to the police and reporting whatever that comes under: harassment, illegal hacking, whatever. So you're saying your air conditions and your sick note were illegally hacked from your computer?
Well, ironically, I also had been receiving a scam call, which made it made it dubious. It wasn't clear, therefore, how these documents came into the hands of Scarlet Scoop, who that's how she calls herself, even though we know it's a he, who publishes HAMPSTEAD research. And somebody spotted that these copies that he published, and in fact, it must have come from the police, because I have never forwarded the bail conditions together with a sick note. I don't think. Can't even be bothered whether to check that or not. I went at pains through a lot of software operations and bank operations, because it looked as if the scam call was mainly there to hack my banking details rather than these details. And in the process, a supporter spotted that these were master copies, so they must have come from the police, and therefore I should complain to the police. Now my question is, do I do that? Do I let the solicitor do that? And how do I deal with these bail conditions in the first place? They are draconian, they are excessive, they are disproportionate. And when the solicitor wanted to change them into what's called a curfew or electronic tag, that hasn't happened yet, and we may or should go to the court. I bet it's wrong. I shouldn't even talk about it. But since these bail conditions are up, the same. It's so twisted and so horrendous. I just can't follow this logic, Angie. So he published that I breached the bail conditions. I complained to WordPress. WordPress says I have to go via American court. How did he manage to get HAMPSTEAD research taken down? I can't get HAMPSTEAD research taken down. We are really in a state where criminals rule the world. Criminals get what they want. Not the people.
Understanding HAMPSTEAD was reinstated by WordPress after investigation. Am I right about that? I think it was put back up. I think it was. I'll check that. But my understanding is HAMPSTEAD research was taken down because of complaints by alleged abusers about harassment, and then it was reinstated. That's my understanding.
I don't think it was reinstated.
Okay, well, that's good. That's something to check. There's also something else came up, and I don't know if it's... there's a very good blog giving evidence of the many... what do they call it when they're fake profiles?
Yeah, avatars.
avatars. There's another word people use, but anyway, there's multiple accounts that are.
Yeah, that's the one. That Dearman does Hampstead. That's that blog.
Dearman does Hampstead, and I'll try and put a link on that on here as well.
That's what I still don't know who did it, but I mean, except for your one email, and I asked that person, and I haven't had a response.
I got the name wrong, but it was one of the research team. She putting on this research over the weeks since February, and I said that's so valuable information. Please turn that into a proper link, so because people were getting bullied and harassed on YouTube, on Facebook, on WordPress, so many forums. People were getting multiple harassment and not turning it off. So it was really whoever did. Does Hampstead, that's really valuable, and that's really valuable information. And it's also, I think, it's also illegal to have fake profiles.
Well, actually, that would surprise me because Facebook first deleted 2 of my accounts, and then when I opened another one, they insisted in putting in the ID so that they could connect the real name to these fake names. But I was also told that this only happens to people who have been reported. So one of the things to do is now to report to all of these about all of these various fake profiles. But what else? I mean, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I have to deal with my pension, with my housing benefits. I have to deal with, I have to appeal against those decisions. It's just such a mad world.
I have the same dilemmas. I wake up on a Monday morning. I think I need to deal with my own situation, having been robbed and burgled and hacked and all of that, and the financial pressure and the children. And then I'm committed to the Hampstead thing and the truth coming out and the children. And it's like, what do you do? Which do you take care of first? You have to eat. You have to pay your rent. You have to, you have to look after your children. It is a balance thing. And also, I was invited, so I must have been reported also on Facebook. I've never had a problem with Facebook, but I changed the spelling of my last name to the French original, Disney. I was invited to revert back to my original spelling that's on my passport and documents, so I didn't bother appealing it. I just changed it back. It's interesting you say they only ask for a donation if you've been reported. So what did your solicitors say? I know what I was going to say to you. It may be a fake profile stirring up conflict, but an apparent abuse survivor was having a go at me for my support of the Hampstead case and my support of yourself and Belinda and people like Bill Maloney, Brian Gerrish, and on reflection, when I slept on, I thought, that could be another fake altar, deliberately trying to find my weak spot to undermine me. Because I don't want to hurt survivors. I don't want to offend survivors. I don't want to, muscle in on what they've been campaigning for 20 years for. I have the utmost respect for them. So if I were to believe that that was a genuine person, I was going to ask you, because one of the points she was making was, if people are not survivors, and then what's their motivation for taking the limelight and jumping on the bandwagon, all this kind of talk, So I know what my motivation is. I'm a survivor. I'm not embarrassed to say that. So I'm parallel. I'm not just committed to stopping child abuse. I have a personal experience of that and a personal investment in why I spend so many hours of my life for no return, at my own, because it's my passion. It happened to me. It had a vast impact on my life, and I don't want it to happen. I can stop it happening to children in Hampstead, or 5 children, or 50 children, or that's my passion in life. Can you share anything about are you a survivor? What's your passion in this area? What brought you to this kind of work?
Well, it's interesting that you just talk about passion, because I just read in the Tube Station a little book by Hermann Hesse about his understanding of love, and that is based on Indian philosophy, so it's based on self-love, and so he talks about he reiterates only the soul that kind of transcends itself and gives of itself is happy because it loves. And I thought this man really must call that passion. And my passion, I can't quite know why it is as strong as it is, besides the fact that I'm half Slavic. I always use that as an excuse because the average German wouldn't have that, I think. I guess I'm a Libra, so I'm just a priori for justice. But whenever I see children now, Angie, to imagine that they would be torn away from their mothers is just, to me, such a horrible thing, such a horrible, cruel, and then to justify that with in the best interest of the children, and to set up this whole scenario of wicked people and piles and files of papers. I mean, I came across the first case that was Vicky Haig. I mean, the daughter had said, Daddy does things to me that he shouldn't, and now I can't see Mommy. Well, and the result is Vicky can't see her daughter till she's 18, and Vicky was sent to prison. Her judgment was published, and she was turned into a villain, and the abuser was made to look good. That's precisely what has happened now with the Hampstead case. And then the other big case of the Musas, the 7 children. I mean, it is just so horrendous what people do to people, and they are paid to do this job. That is like, as a German, I had to explain Nazism to myself. So could it happen? Because people are just doing their job. So that's what's happening now. People are just doing their job, and they come from Romania and other faraway countries where they think that capitalism is the answer to the world, and then therefore they do anything and everything, and they leave their conscience parked at home. I mean, it just upsets me deeply and profoundly.
The German thing is quite dire because I was born in Germany, supposedly by accident. I was born in the military hospital in Germany, and my father didn't want me to have a British passport, which you get if you're in the military and you're born anywhere in the world, you get a British passport. So my father advised my mother to go and have the birth registered with the normal German people, even if you have to tell them the military registrar is on holiday. So I have a German birth certificate, and I speak fluent German, and I've spent a lot of time there. So I'm conflicted about that whole German Nazi thing, and I know there's more to that story, but I know also that from research from post-World War II, over the past 50 years, and really entrenched by Margaret Thatcher's government, that this is not an accident. This was set in place. You know, paedophiles were put in strategic positions, like Peter Wright, and he was childcare consultant, he was a teacher, a social worker. There's still, even though he's convicted paedophile, social workers still study his work. Do you know that? It's part of the syllabus still.
No, I don't know that. I mean, you're saying pedophiles during and at the end of the war were put into strategic places?
It's been for the last 50 years that strategic. They placed psychiatrists, they placed childcare specialists, so say. Even if you bring it bang up to date, David Cameron's advisor of the last 19 years is now a convicted sex offender he was caught with the high category child pornography. He was David Cameron's personal advisor for 19 years. These things were not accidental. Things like Jimmy Gabb getting the keys to court to him, between Kenneth Clark and Edward Curry. These things are not accidental. People placed on the island of Jersey, people that were running a children's home and were complained about sexual abuse were then allowed to foster. So this has been an internal setup. So even though we say, how can this be? It's social workers' job to put the interests of the children first. It's the police's job to expose criminality. I'll give you one more example. Wiltshire. There was a report to Wiltshire police about Ted Heath regarding, they were going to prosecute the madame of a brothel, and she said, I'm going to blow the whistle on Ted Heath and paedophilia. So they didn't prosecute her. Well, the Wiltshire policeman that was covered that up, that didn't investigate properly, was side promoted to border control. And he's the one that was able to prevent this American journalist from Newsweek coming to investigate Jersey. You see, he was strategically placed. He was not disciplined. He was just transferred from Wiltshire Police to UK Border Control. And so it's no coincidence that the whistleblower, a woman like yourself, but a journalist, was forbidden to enter England. She was, you're not welcome, you can't come, you get no visa. Because she was investigating abuse and corruption and cover-up in Jersey. So all I'm saying is Kathy Morgan and the research I've done and other people have been researching, there's some amazing blogs like Spotlight that have been going for decades. And there's absolutely, at least 50 years, all of this has been being put in place like a strategy. But just to bring it back down personal, because I was just asking the question about Survivor, and I know briefly in passing you mentioned something about Dresden. We don't need to justify why we campaign for children's rights, but if this person really was a survivor saying, who are you to be fighting on our behalf, why are you on our bandwagon, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to ask you, have you any personal history of Dresden, what was your experience in Dresden?
Well, my mom was 92 and I was 5 months old when she rescued me from Dresden, and she used some kind of Pampers in order to breathe. And she said, you just walk, walk, walk. I was in the pram. And recently I heard how the kind of rubble from 5 floors up were coming down really loud. And I got shocked. And I've always been very susceptible to shock. And I suddenly thought maybe that's where that was planted, this horrible noise at the bombing of Dresden when I was a 5-month-old baby. I obviously only know it through my mum's experiences and stories, but I mean, who has to inflict that onto a 22-year-old young woman? And she always talked about her 75 kilos of luggage that she was carrying when she left her home. She went she had a goal, and it was an uncle who had a house in the Harz Mountains, and she got there. And she had all sorts of horrible experiences that she told me every so often. It was always a painful subject to talk about. So in general, we didn't ever talk much about in the war. But I haven't experienced sexual abuse personally, but I have been victimized by my former employer. I've been victimized financially. I've been victimized by doctors who would say that my pain is psychological. And I have a heart for victims. And when I organized the meetings at the Forum for Stable Currencies, at first at the House of Lords and then at the House of Commons, victims had come like businessmen who had been made bankrupt fraudulently. And one of them gave me stories about child snatching. He introduced me to that topic, and I just also thought it can't be true, That had to do even with taking children to Australia. And I sort of didn't bother too much, but I wrote about it. I mean, because I just love to develop these various websites and blogs, and eventually I discovered how bad this child snatching is, because I published some photos on my most popular blog, Victims Unite, and I got a gag from Swansea Council, and then I got a gag from Doncaster Council that was about the Vicky Hague case, and then a Haringey Council about the Musa case. So I learned by doing, if you like, and just find that this child snatching is the worst of all white-collar crimes, But if
sometimes it's appropriate, but we're finding, particularly in Britain, but not just in Britain, that it's not taking children from terrible parents who are absolutely putting. There are cases like that, but a lot of the time, the children are being taken with, in danger of future emotional harm, or on the flimsiest of grounds, or in the instance of Hampstead, it's outrageous. You go and say children have disclosed abuse by their father and others, then suddenly 6 days later, the children are retracting in a very strange way, and the children are gone. And the father's getting more access than the mother, and the mother's being harassed and intimidated. So clearly something's up. I just want to put this one to bed, this thing about personal experience. I researched a little bit about Dresden, and you know that rape was a tactic of that time. There was horrors and torture of women being raped as part of that warfare.
Yeah, not just Dresden at all. You know, I mean, Dresden was so horrible because of the fire and because the beauty of that city should never have been destroyed. But rape and cruelty, I mean, against all of the refugees, of which my mom was really part. That, yes, horrific.
Rape as a tactic was very prevalent in Dresden, and the generation of, I mean, I'm 58, but even that generation, even my mother's generation and the generation before, when they say, I don't want to talk about it, they may, like my uncle was a Japanese prisoner of war and was forced marched, and all the skin came off his feet. But we were never allowed to talk to him. He would never discuss it. It was, you know, that generation would not address or talk about the horrors of war. So that, anyway, so you don't need to be a survivor to be committed to victims. You know, the other point to make quickly is that the trauma, you know, I had a little girl stay with me from the Lebanese war, and when it was bonfire night in England, in London, you know, with the fireworks, she completely melted down. Because to her it sounded like bombs, you know. She had PTSD, even though she was only 5 or 6 years old, but she had come from Beirut, you know, in the height of the war, and the slightest noise would cause, you know, post-traumatic stress. There's no doubt about it. So, and then just, you know, I just think of my sister Fiona, who's dead. You know, she spent her whole professional career working, trying to help children, and she never had children of her own. And occasionally, families she was trying to help would pull the old chestnut of, you know, it's like saying to a Catholic priest, how can you advise us on our marriage? You've never been married, you know, so it's like, you know, you don't have children, so how can you fight for us for our children? And it doesn't necessarily, you know, with my sister, she was a senior child protection on the Isle of Wight. Oh, I wish she was still alive. There's so many connections to the Isle of Wight. And then she trained and went into child psychiatric counselling in Manchester, which she stumbled on a vast amount of corruption there. But she never had children. She just said, I'm going to show my commitment to children through my work. And she was so wounded from our childhood, she just didn't feel equipped. So and when I slept on it, I thought, you know, that might not be a campaigner, that might be Dearman just exactly trying to shut us up. Because, like, who are you to fight for us? You know, oh, we're annoyed with you, and we're the real survivors. And, you know, at first I interacted a little bit, and then when I woke up, I thought, you know, that's exactly the kind of psychological warfare that he's trained in, that these people are trained in. If they can, you know, they are trained to look for your weaks, poke around, see what it will that will press your buttons. So you feel like your buttons were pressed and you acted a little bit impulsively when he published your bail conditions and your sick note.
Yeah.
What did your solicitor say?
Well, he basically says don't publish anything, but already, I mean, it must have been on Friday or so, already over the weekend. I checked with a few people, and I was fairly meek, I thought, where I put the information. It was actually at the end of a major supportive email, and so I didn't mention it in the title at all. But I did take it back. I did delete that bit, and. I mean, the solicitor mentioned, it says, as of course everybody does, and you see this is where I find it so difficult, what I call it, to follow this twisted logic. You know, for me, things are more or less either right or wrong, and are innocent and guilty. But it's a question of how to interpreting it, whether I can report and talk about the case at all. You know, well, I mean, it mentions, it says very clearly this, that, or the other, and forgot the name Ricky Dearman, that which Belinda spotted. She said, oh, so you can write about Ricky Dearman.
Currently, we're not breaching bail by saying his name, but this is also a point that once you report, once you are arrested, like Robert Greene spent so long in prison and got a lifetime gagging order, never to mention that Holly Gregg case again, and you know, like, endured, I don't know, a year or more in total in prison. The most gentlemanly, wonderful, kind advocate for children. And the same with Ben Fellows. When he was arrested in December, he was kept in prison 18 days and then bailed, and the court case was in the Old Bailey only 2 weeks ago. Well, for his bail in January until the court case, the exact same thing. He was not allowed to be online discussing it. He was tagged. He was curfewed. He couldn't work. It's outrageous, and it's a means of silencing people. It's like, get her out of the way, frighten her, intimidate her, give her disproportionate bail conditions, threaten her with jail if she breaks them. Good, that's her out of the way. Now we can take a year to find her not guilty.
Well, they take it 2 months, which is also excessive because everybody talks about 28 days. And the question is now whether I go to the magistrate's court and get the bail conditions varied. And I thought if I do that, I could possibly also get Dearman somehow involved. But I mean, if I can't even get WordPress to take his blog down, with his guys, his buddies in the right places. I mean, starting out with the police, very obviously and evidently. I mean, how and why? Who formulated the bail conditions? Why are they the way they are being formulated? Excuse me, on behalf of the alleged innocent abusers.
The absurdity that not one alleged abuser was arrested, not one alleged abuser was properly investigated. There was a brief questioning leaked online of Dearman being interviewed. But it was nowhere near, no crime scenes were preserved. Nobody was asked to refute in very simple ways. If there's been escalating harassment, it could have been resolved so easily. We've gone over that ground already. But it's a question of, do we engage on their grounds? I've stayed quiet with some certain information to see if Justice Poffley did the right thing. The first complete shock was, despite overwhelming forensic legal evidence for a justifiable appeal, it was turned down. Just such arrogance, such in your face, no leave to appeal. But what about Your Honour, A, B, C, it's professional standard, amazing new evidence, no leave to appeal. That was the first. I'm naive. I keep hoping the justice system works as it's designed to, and then it's still unclear. Has the word supervision been misinterpreted? I think on day one of the custody hearing, Dearman was granted interim supervision, which is just beyond. And then it was said, no, the children have been recommitted to care for 6 to 12 months. And his access is now going to be supervised, which it wasn't, which is all in the big picture scandalous. If somebody says credibly, two people say credibly, this person has hurt me, sodomized me, allowed others to do it, tortured me, frightened me, etc. Those are serious enough allegations that you don't give unsupervised access. You don't give interim supervision orders. And so the absurdity that we have arrests for the whistleblowers for harassment of the alleged abusers parallel with no arrests of the accused, no forensically examined locations, no invitation to present for validation or otherwise of distinguishing marks. It is absurd, but it seems to me that the British justice system is just thumbing their nose at the whole world, America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. This is being followed all over the world, and they're just saying, we do what we want. What are you going to do?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's that kind of arrogance.
It is arrogance beyond. It's. I've been in shock. From when the leave to appeal was turned down. and all the shenanigans along the way. I just wanted to ask you one more question, and then I'll let you just talk a little bit more. Is that somebody posted, and again, this could be a fake profile of Dearman, which he's already got multiple ones. Somebody posted something about you had put up 50 victims that you helped. Was that you, or is that?
No, I tend to say that I've been involved in 50 to 100 cases, but you know, collectively, we have dealt with many more, because I mean, one of my closest advisors is, of course, Ian Josephs in Monaco, who has been watching this field for 50 years, and he still gets 6 to 10 phone calls a day. I started by writing summaries and by publishing them. Then I made individual websites. I started with Vicky Haig. I then did Melissa Laird, who is also a victim of Barnett Council, and the Musas and the Pedros, and a very tragic Lithuanian mother as well. You know, so I've taken always the worst of all, the worst cases, always, and somehow they were the ones that came to me. But I've helped and advised and passed on also, you know, because I can't, since quite some time, I can't cope with individual cases anymore, and I pass them on to somebody else.
Okay, so would you say you've been involved in 50 to 100 cases?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Easily. And since when? How long have you been? Because I didn't know you until the Hampstead case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Victims Unite is where I'd started already on the previous blog. I started to publish the first child snatching stories. And at that point, David Icke had already published 80 cases, and he called it state kidnapping. And later I checked again, and he was up to 1,000 or so articles. I mean, you know, I'm not sure, maybe that's wrong, but anyway, many more. And so for me, it would have been at least since 2010, sort of anything between 3 and 5 years back, I would think.
Okay, and so you do a parallel thing, I suppose, like me, like your profession is you're a scientific mathematician, web designer. There's that whole side of your professional life. And then you do this with Mackenzie Friends for the last 5 years. Am I understanding that right?
That's right. Yes, because I mean, there were already Mackenzie Friends outside the family courts, who these fraudulent bankruptcies had been developed partly and a lot and held by Mackenzie Friends. So those people had come to my meetings at the House of Lords and House of Commons, and then the family court situation emerged as a real, if you like, special aspect of Mackenzie Friends. And even the Mackenzie Friends who were used to white collar crimes and home repossessions and land registry fraud, they didn't know how bad it is with the family courts. And when we invited MPs, that it was the same thing. You know, some did or some didn't know about the family courts. John Hemming was the only one who did. And he always said social services don't get involved when they should, and they do get involved when they shouldn't, which I think is very accurate. And he has had over 2,000 cases on file. So I've just sort of always done what I call meta thinking, you know, just go a level higher and take overview, bird's views, and to describe the kind of principles. And then and one of the Mackenzie Friends is a Belgian journalist, and she had spoken to MEPs in Brussels. And so therefore she went to suggest to me, because I had already put out online petitions. I found online petitions a very good electronic tool, software tool with which to influence politics. So she suggested to start this petition to abolish adoption without parental consent. And at that point, I then began also to register the Association of Mackenzie Friends as an NGO in Brussels. And because of my 6 minutes of passion with 30 parents there who had put their hopes on me and my efforts, I suppose made a bit of an impact, but it was the wrong time, because the Parliament was about to be dissolved, and there was a new election, and a new parliament was elected.
But that was my first experience of you. Don't say it was the wrong time, because everything every campaigner's done for, Brenda McNamara's been campaigning since the 60s. It all will get to the 100th monkey effect, so it wasn't a waste of time. Do you know what I mean? That's on record, and that was my first experience of you. I know there's lots of, there's been an almost successful smear campaign to disable Mackenzie Friends, and there's been all sorts of allegations flying. I think we've addressed some of them, but, and on some level, I don't like to waste energy deflecting friendly fire, but certainly if there's questions that can be answered, by all means, why not just, my thing is be transparent. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to hide. So tell me your way forward, because my sons are here and my boy's got his offers of college and he's got to make decisions and all that. We've got a live.
We have an hour. So.
You have an hour. They've given me an hour. Good. So God love them. They've got a live, and contrary to belief, this is not a huge money-making experience. Certainly not from where I'm sitting at all. So is there? How are you going to proceed? Are you going to try and vary the bail conditions? Do you feel safe? Are you sleeping okay? How are you?
No, I don't sleep okay, and I am in far too much pain. I had to revert to using my sticks as a way of going about, and I only got to go out of the flat for the absolute minimum. So I'm far from being okay. I'm not back to normal, either physically or financially, or, if you like, infrastructure-wise. And this scam call was partly contributory to that as well. And, of course, that may have been part of the trolling business. In terms of going forward, I just left a message with the solicitor. A part of me just doesn't even know what's worth doing anymore, because I am now in the same situation that absolutely everybody is in. They turn it into their lifestyle, and it becomes their lifestyle, and it has to, because that's what it stirs your heart. It just you got to do it. You cannot not do it. But it's like you're being gagged and you're not, or hit and you're not supposed to cry. I mean, it's just completely illogical again. Did you know, Angie, apparently corporal punishment is still happening in all of these private elite schools. But then when parents hit the child, then that's a reason for taking it away. I mean, this double standard, this hypocrisy, it's completely mad-making.
I think some people are also, I'm in Ireland, okay, and I do wonder, it's so absurd that Belinda was issued a summons, Tracy was, you've been arrested and attempt to be gagged. It's quite possible. I got an email today from Wiltshire Police regarding my own complaint, which is linked to the Lowell Goddard, and she wants me to go over and make a video statement. And there is a chance that, I could be arrested too. But my approach is the legal system doesn't work anyway, so why would I be quiet to cooperate with a system that's corrupt? Why? I'm not going to be gagged, because I've got nothing to lose. If you're gonna go against the law or act illegally, as the British system seems to be doing, so why am I going to cooperate with a legal system that's broken? I don't wish any person harm. I don't harass individuals, but why should I stop speaking the truth?
Yes.
Because you say to me, oh, well, don't say anything, you might compromise your case. Don't say anything, you might be in contempt of court. Don't say anything, you might be in breach of bail. Don't say, well, hello, I've got nothing to lose. That's where I can't make that everybody's stance. But that's my stance, bring it on. I'm not ready to die. I believe in God. I believe in angelic protection. And bring it on, because I believe there are more good people than bad. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. That's me.
Well, that's very
easy for me to say. I'm not sitting in your place in where do you live?
Near Finchley Road Tube Station. I just walked past the shoemaker again.
Oh God! Well, I salute you. You are on the front line. I hope you have Do you meet friends? I hope you're not isolated, because it's designed to make you isolated and drive you crazy and harass you and intimidate you until you either melt down or your health breaks down or you shut up.
No, you see, I mean, at first, when I was given these bail conditions, I said, good, I can concentrate on my software, because doing that is peace of mind. You know, I love it. I'm in a meditative space, and I think. And I do get enough support. I feel the support, you know, I feel cuddled and supported and loved. As Belinda said, you see, Tracy was the one who dreamt it up that I should be coming back. And of course, I thought I could only come back if Ella comes back. But I also knew that Ella wouldn't. And I don't regret it at all. And Tracy is, for Belinda and me, definitely the new kind of spirit. I mean, she is such a street fighter, and she sees through what all of this emperor clothes type of business, you know.
And it's not about us. We don't want to be heroes. She's not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But everybody has the opportunity to access that fearlessness. She has that fearlessness.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And my mum always used to say that about me as well. And I didn't even know that until she said that. I always loved my courage and my enthusiasm. But the fearlessness, well, I guess, I don't know where it comes from. I mean, friends of mine said I used to ski in fearless ways. And of course, I told people not to talk about skiing, because I couldn't stand the thought of not being able to ski again. And I haven't been since the accident. So now where I stand and where to go forward, I try to do as best as I can, whatever keeps me content, whatever gives me peace of mind, whatever it is the right thing for me to just not to fall apart, but the contrary.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my heart's with you. I'm straining at the bit to go, at least to the police and do that part of it. I would love to come and give support, but as you know, and as I suspect is connected, I was robbed, I was burgled, all my technology stolen, and driving license still not replaced. And I feel there's been some covert harassment, you know, people in high places, even though I'm in Ireland. So, but you know, I just salute you. I pray for you. I pray you're safe. And we can do this as often as you like. It takes maybe 24 hours for us to actually get it together, because we have lives and because we have personal things to take care of. But I'm not backing down, you know, I'm not backing down. You know, I'm just reminded of Joan of Arc, who was one of my heroes. You know, it's like, no, this is like, what have we got to lose?
No, I
have others. You've lost your children. You've lost your where you live. You've lost your ability to earn money. You've lost your reputation. You've been dragged through the mud and vilified. What have you got to lose?
Exactly. Nothing to lose, nothing to hide. That's entirely my stance as well.
But having said that, look at Melanie Shaw. She was really suffered. Look at Robert Greene. It's like, of course, on a different level, we're human. Of course, we've got our freedom, and you know, who knows what goes on in Sodexo prisons. So I don't mean to be flippant. And you know,
you can't compare pain and you can't compare destinies. And the challenge is, how do we manage these challenges and difficulties? I've just had a letter in response to my letter to the President of the European Commission. I have been promised an answer to my concerns over the UK family courts within 6 weeks by another department. Another key MEP, Vice President, had said the issue is above the radar. I trust that the fact that I have a voice in Brussels counts and in my favor. And I'm basically very encouraged by what you said, Angie. It's most helpful, because it always takes one's own personal experience. Yeah, I mean, if you to talk to somebody who hasn't lost a close friend or family member about death is just so kind of not worth it. You know,
intellectual exercise. People have to access you have this is a personal thing. It was a very personal thing. It enraged me when the legal team for Lord Janner were trying to do anything to stop him appearing in court and they were saying it was barbaric, inhumane and uncivilized to ask him to appear. Well, what do you think child rape and sodomy is? Hello. It's the same thing, asking him to appear on charges of that severity, and instead of saying child rape and torture and sodomy is barbaric, inhumane and uncivilized, they're saying asking an alleged abuser, an alleged perpetrator, asking him to come to court is, give me a break. Give me a break.
Yes, that is this hypocrisy that gets to me as well.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll check in if you like for a while. I think people are concerned. They want to know. There's lots of gossip and drama and, friendly fire. I think it would be good to do this every few days, just to see where we're at.
I'm here, Angie, and I value very, very much your style, your empathy, your passion, the combination of knowledge and experience and wisdom to hopefully take this forward.
Okay, well, thank you. And I also smoke, and none of us are trying to be perfect. The smoking, it's like, give me a break as well. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I'm not dead, I didn't commit suicide, I'm a survivor. Back off. They call me the puffing prophet. If I arrive in heaven, smelling of cigarettes, it's just cigarettes, not hell, Anyway, look, it was lovely to talk to you. I do love you to pieces, and I'm sorry sometimes take a while to connect, but we all are spinning with so many plates.
We've seen that. That's the main thing.
And you're on the front line, and thank you. And I'm so glad you don't regret coming back.
No, I can wholeheartedly say that. I mean, I thought it was an insult, that and how I was arrested, even though my solicitor had contacted the police and they hadn't responded, and that wasn't enough of an excuse. I was treated appallingly. The interview was absolutely horrendously shocking and traumatic. When it was brought up the other day again, I was in tears. It was an experience I don't wish on anybody, but I don't regret it.
And also, I was in shock that you had bail conditions, because I've seen the documents, the person that released the videos online way before February. I've seen them. So I thought you would have just been brought in for questioning and released with an apology.
Well, I mean, the videos weren't even the point. It was all about the alleged abusers, which I always knew ahead of time, which I've always denied. And so the whole thing was just a circus. But
the names were released by Anonymous, but it's the same thing. The solicitor for Janner trying to get sympathy for him. The alleged abusers trying to get sympathy for the Hampstead people that are traumatized by this campaign. Well, excuse me, the children, if they're telling the truth, which millions around the world believe they are, you don't even know what traumatized means. Yeah. Don't get my sympathy because you've had some harassment. Try getting raped since infancy. And then talk to me about harassment.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Anyway, listen, God bless, and we'll talk again. Namaste. I love Jesus. I love